So we are fine with that. We are going to continue, and we'll discuss the World Café method and the introduction, but we'll do the practical part of that. We were supposed to actually do, for the practical part, we were actually supposed to do 2 questions, but now we are going to discuss 1 question instead of 2, so that we are on time. By lunch, we are basically finished. So we are going to follow the program as is. However, we are going to leave out round 2, the question number 2. And then after lunch, that would be the conference opening, the introduction keynotes to the critical university studies. For day 2, it's registration, 8:30 and 9, and we'll be here. And at 2 to 3, we'll do the World Café reflection session. So this session, you'll realize, excuse me, that there are 2 sessions for both day 2 and day 3. This is to cover for people who would not be able to attend either of the session. If you are able to attend for day 1, then it's fine. You can attend the day 1 to give sessions, to give the reflection, and then day 2 to give the reflection. And the best part is day 3, which is we'll continue the registration, particularly for those who are on site. And then at 10:30, we do the reflections, and then at 7 to 9, there's dinner and certification to the World Café participants. Oh, all of the participants, not disregarding any. Can we go to the last slide, Terry? And how is the academy going to operate? Basically, as we have seen, that it is hybrid, it operates on Zoom and also in place, but we are also going to rely on WhatsApp group. So we kindly request that you all participants register on a daily basis for the academy and also the conference. And I believe that you have received the program and the guidelines document, and you are please requested to read the info sheet and sign the ethic consent forms. The sign is basically, it can be a sign or a signature, it doesn't really matter. And all participants must join the WhatsApp group for communication purposes. It's easier for us. There are no delays, it's on time. And after the conference, we'll kindly request you to complete the academy evaluation, which will be distributed to all of you. And this would include the World Café literature that will be distributed either during or after. And all participants who attended all academy sessions will receive a certificate of attendance as per attendance register. And now I am handing over to Professor Lucia and Dr. Joe for the presentation on critical university studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kiama Mwawe at the University of Venda. I'm going to do a very brief kind of context introduction for us to then segue into the question of World Café method. So if you have no background whatsoever in the World Café method, you don't have to worry about that, because this academy is designed in such a way that basically after this academy, you should be able to understand the basic link between critical university studies and emancipatory the qualitative research. Also, in this presentation, of course, we're starting with a very short introduction into the underpinnings of critical university studies, and to recap a bit on qualitative research. And then in the second presentation, Dr. Morwe is going to actually go into the details, both kind of the philosophical underpinnings, the conceptual and theoretical underpinnings of World Café method, as well as the actual practical way of doing it. And then, like she said, we're going to do a practical project together. How we are going to do this, what are our learning activities overall? It's going to be the input of about an hour and a half of presentation and presentation-related activities. In the process, there should always be a bit of an interactive self-assessment going on, where you ask yourself, what have I understood? What have I not understood? And then the practical project. You have seen that there are parallel sessions tomorrow and on Friday. Tomorrow it's session C2.1, I think. If there's any program changes in the overall conference, I think the conference organizers are going to advise. That's going to be sections for reflections, as well as a parallel session C3. That's in order for us to come together in parallel sessions, because there's such a limited time available for the academy, so that we can debrief, that it's possible to ask questions again on the World Café method and so on, and also to just reflect and share about what has been learned. The survey is going to be done via Google form, and then, like Kiamo has said, there will be further further readings available. Very briefly, many of you, of course, in this room have a very strong background already in what is critical university studies. Basically, critical university studies is an attempt from a critical scholarly, theoretical perspective to try and reimagine the emancipatory possibilities for thinking about the university in the present. I think this one could call is probably the easiest way in which one can try and put it into one line, or as in a publication, Aslam Fattar, Shireen Motala, Andre Kiet, and others have put it. Critical university studies is a scholarly approach to generate new questions around the university, with themes such as, for example, the enduring colonial, modern, and capitalist imaginary of higher education, persistent inequalities, the ongoing search for social justice, the complexity of subject reformations and transfigurations associated with student, staff, and institutional cultures in universities, and the relationship between university and society, knowledge, curriculum, learning and teaching, and so on. As you are going to go through the conference, you will find these kinds of themes coming up again and again, of course. There is a bit of a difference between critical university studies in the global south and critical university studies as it has been defined and is being practiced in the global north. So in the global north, Jeffrey Williams wrote an article in 2012, commenting on a new form of scholarship about higher education and universities emerging in the 1980s and the 1990s, basically a critique of neoliberalism in the university. To put it very, very brief, in the global south, this same critique has also been observed, but by also drawing on other traditions, like, for example, abolitionist university studies and other commitments, including value commitments. The critical edge that critical university studies has been expanded by a decolonial critique of techno-rationality in higher education. So going beyond the neoliberal and looking at the underpinnings, actually, of even neoliberalism, with explicit emancipatory and social justice stance. So, and the conception of emergence, decenteredness, and plurality. Elaborated in detail is this in a publication by Andre Kiert and others that was published in 2023. So very important, I think, in the conception of critical university studies in the global south is the emphasis on social justice in higher education, alongside the decolonial critique, conceptions of emergence, decenteredness, and plurality. I think I want to stop here for a second because I know we've got scholars in the room. And let me start first and foremost with Joe. I can't see Joe now. Joe, are you there? Okay, come a bit more this side so that I can also see you and Kiamo can see you.
Can you see me now?
Yeah.
And can you
So
hear
maybe
me?
you want to
No? Can you hear or not?
We can hear you.
Ah, perfect. Yes. So you're asking me to talk about critical university studies as well. So my understanding of critical university studies is, of course, rooted in the chair that I come from, the chair for research, critical university. Sorry, a lot has happened today. My chair is called CRISHET, where I'm a postdoctoral fellow at Nelson Mandela University. It's a chair for critical, who can help me? Yes, chair for critical studies in higher education transformation. And part of what we think about is how we can think of the university differently and mobilize the margins, because one of the things that come up with critical university studies is the dynamics of power and how universities are set up and all these kinds of things, and how we can ensure that the discrimination, for instance, that continues to be perpetuated in universities can be thought about differently. So that's part of how we look at critical university studies. And the key thing, the one thing that I always remember that we talk about is we're not criticizing for the sake of it. We are not we're not just being negative about the setups. What we are interested in is, are there alternatives? Can we pursue alternative ways of doing this thing that we still think is important, this university, this way of knowledge generation and sharing? So that's how we approach it generally. Jenny is not here. She would probably have said something else or more about that. But yes, Thierry is inviting scholars here. I think we have Dina, who might want to say a word or two as well. Okay.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. Morning. Yeah, so I guess critical university studies is a catch-all phrase in a way, but it is trying to distinguish itself from the study that a lot of us have been doing for a very long time, which is working very, very hard, looking at aspects of what the university does and trying to shift them. But recognizing that often when we do that, that doesn't necessarily shift things at all. And so it's almost an intervention in many of our attempts to make it more concerted, to stop, think, see the effects of what we do when we study the university, and make sure it is in the interests of social justice. So absolutely, Joe, the issue of power and how the university just sometimes encloses us again. You know, we're trying to do things differently. We're concerned with things, but it encloses us again. So I think it's going to be very interesting talking today at this cafe. It's a wonderful format. So I think it's, yeah, I'd like to turn back the mic so we can start. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you switch off the room and try and fix the video in the room? If you have some connected from the room. Good, good. In the meantime, there we go. There's feedback, please. Thank you. So now the academies that we are doing, that we've been doing last year on Photo Voice in Ghana, and now this year on World Café at Makerere in Kampala. So is of course attempts around which we want to learn to become more critical university scholars. And the key takeaway perhaps is that the critical edge to reimagine actually the kind of emancipatory possibilities that Fattar and all are speaking about of the university in the global south requires first and foremost one's own critical thinking skills and the critical consciousness as members of academic communities, and understanding of the emergence, even our own emergence as higher education scholars about our universities. So a critical, methodologically rigorous kind of self-reflection of staff and students on our own lived experiences in the university in the present, the university as social space, as place of learning, is of course and should be the starting point for also then thinking about much more broadly and much more deeply about the university and its resistance potential from the ground up. And so with that, we very much align ourselves with notions that have been elaborated already 10 years ago. In the process, we've been starting with qualitative research methods. And what are qualitative research methods? In fact, what is qualitative research? You all have your phones there. So let me turn that question back to you. Please take your phone or take your laptop and go to slido.com or walk forward to the screen and do a QR code read of the QR code. And then you will see there's a poll there at slido.com, and you can put in some ideas. What is qualitative research to you? What makes research qualitative? What are the distinguishing characteristics of qualitative research in general? I see some of you are online already and are typing. That's fantastic. Yes, continue to keep them coming. Qualitative research is research concerned with non-quantifiable phenomena, non-number-based research. I would disagree. I'm sorry. I disagree. It has nothing to do with numbers or words. It has something to do that's much more deeper. That's a very basic, very superficial way of thinking about the difference between quantitative and qualitative research. No. Qualitative research can very much be quantitative. You can do surveys in a qualitative way, and you can even quantify those things. The importance is what you do with the numbers or what you do with the words, of course. And what you study. Yeah, there we are starting to see it now. It's about subjectivity rather than claimed objectivity. Aha. It's about research concerned with experiences, with meanings, with interpretation. It may involve interviews, documents, deep explorations, individual experiences, group experiences, in-depth studies. The people are treated as the experts. Social interaction is important. People, phenomena, understanding is emerging in the center of this word cloud, understanding, and experiences and people, participants and meaning. Fantastic, yes. I think we are very much on the right track here. Even behavior, social realities, multiple perspectives. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That is collective knowledge in the room right there. That is collective knowledge in the room right there. Aggregating it. Fantastic. And there are, of course, very many different types of qualitative research. There's ethnographic research, narrative research, historical research, critical research that may have a Marxist or post-Marxist, feminist, decolonial or queer theory background. There's participatory action research. There's case study research. Grounded theory is a way in which one may be doing qualitative research and approach towards analyzing it. There are various kinds of methods by which one can generate data or collect data or find meaning and try and do interpretations, whether individually in unstructured, semi-structured, in-depth online or offline kind of interviews and conversations, or in more collective kind of interviews and conversations like focus groups. Through observations, documentary research, whether that's archival or otherwise, even autoethnographic research, visual research like photo voice, art-based inquiries, poetic inquiry, and of course, World Café. And like many of you have mentioned, key characteristics are the nature of the participants in the research are not considered subjects, or the idea is that one tries as much as possible not to be extractive, not just to pull out data out of people, but to actually look very differently at how we work with people, that we become facilitators of knowledge creation rather than trying to be the knowledge creator and just treat others as those that we want to work with as a source of data. Even though the researcher tends to be a key research instrument, certainly that's a big distinguishing feature between what is more called quantitative studies and qualitative, that the researcher's context and positionality, even if the researcher is more in the background, depending on the design of the study, still very much important. Emic meanings, the meaning that social experiences, social phenomena have to participants, tend to be very important, depending a bit on one's approach to qualitative studies. The notion of in-depth with seen coming up in your own responses to the Slido. We haven't really talked about ethics and trustworthiness, but those are also key, and there are ways in which one can ensure the trustworthiness of the work that one does in qualitative study. So what others would call validity, for example, and reliability in more statistical kind of work. Often one tends to use, therefore, multiple sources of data. Again, a bit of a problematic notion there, but basically trying to have different perspectives, different people, a social construction of the knowledge, and then the critical and theoretical perspectives. So when it comes to World Café, we're now moving towards that. World Café, without even knowing exactly what it is and how it works. In some qualitative methods, still one tends to have a relatively short involvement of participants, in some cases only for data collection and for data verification, perhaps as well. In World Café, there's very much a focus on the dialogical, social construction of knowledge. So it's not about data collection so much as it is a process of data generation and analysis and interpretation at the same time in one setting, or in multiple settings. Participants tend to be involved mainly at that stage of data analysis, collection and analysis, but they can be involved very much as well in the conception and design of research question, and then eventually in dissemination and advocacy. All of these terms, research methodology terms, we really need to think about them. They've got so many problematic notions behind them, but we're going with that for the moment. We still have to come up with a non-gendered way of talking about distributing knowledge that is not about seminating it, and things like that. But yeah, let's not get bogged down by this. Oftentimes there can be mixed media involved, even in World Café, such as photographs or short videos and so on. Similar bit to photo voice, even though in World Café those would not necessarily be treated as data in the way it is in photo voice. And then, of course, in any kinds of group settings, anonymity is difficult, but then the personal and collective investment of working together can produce authenticity. So, as I said, we're going to go into the depth of World Café and how it works and all of that in a minute. Just to now link quickly the question around critical university studies and research. As I said earlier, it's about trying to start thinking more critically about the institution itself. Mahali and Swartz and Fournier and so on, for example, talk of emancipatory research as the kind of research that provides or enables one to think and gain an understanding of structural barriers, policies and practices in institutions. Another way of putting that is emancipatory research methods are those that are designed to allow participants to become active co-creators of knowledge and be involved in the, here again, the words creation and dissemination of knowledge about themselves and about institutions and systems within which they live and work. And in our case, that would be universities, of course. So this worked very well now with doing a Slido. Here's a second one. let's see what we already all know collectively about what makes research methods emancipatory or decolonized or Africanized. So again, you can go on your devices to slido.com and put in that code 4846070, or you can scan the QR code. That's a quick way of going about it. And let's see. It takes a minute, and then the first ideas are going to come up. Of course, if you are still on Slido, it automatically comes to the second questions. There we go. What makes research methods emancipatory or decolonized or Africanized? Not that these mean the same, of course, but for our purposes, they have similar kinds of philosophical underpinning. So it's about deconstructing Western or Eurocentric views, for example, from the curriculum. They are engaging. There's the notion of critically indigenous, emancipatory. Flattening hierarchies and being people-centered. Knowledge generated that is relevant and representative. I like this one. The starting point is African. There's an endogenous starting point. The knowledge is co-created, always probing, own perspectives. Research methods, notions of emancipatory, decolonized, Africanized is also about epistemologies, appreciation of local context, the context of participants, valuing people, valuing their experiences, working in dialogue, working reflectively, working collaboratively, empowering the marginalized, researchers themselves being reflexive. And now we're starting to see Africanized research methods are decolonized, emancipatory, produce knowledge that challenges oppression. Fantastic. Okay, I can see we already have a huge amount of collective knowledge in the room about what actually makes research methods emancipatory or decolonized or Africanized. So if we look at how can we, for example, distinguish a bit between traditional research methods and research methods that are decolonizing, that are emancipatory. Maldonado Torres, for example, says that traditional methods in higher education research carry and represent often the residual cultural presence of colonization. That is top-down, expert versus layperson, the research versus the research subject, and those kind of dichotomies, they actually mirror power inequalities. And like we said, critical university studies really seeks to address power inequalities. So we should also do that, of course, not only in our critique of the university, but in the very way we operate. And participatory research can address misrecognition. It can enable people who are stereotyped as lacking epistemic material to contribute to shared knowledge. So You in this seminar room 1 have just shown much more knowledge about what are in fact emancipatory characteristics of emancipatory research, of decolonized research, of Africanized research methods than what I could have ever presented. And participants are acknowledged, as we said, as legitimate producers of knowledge, knowledge based on how they experience, understand, learn, and talk about power dynamics, exclusions, and inclusions at university. So finally then, what is the potential of these methods? Why are we using these methods? It is in order to uncover and disrupt power and knowledge asymmetries. So photo voice, for example, is one of those kind of methods, like Mignolo indicates, which allows more equal participation, and so is World Café. The decolonial value in the African context, where knowledge is often produced in ways that silence marginal identities and voices and rather reinforces inequalities, we seek to disrupt that. We seek to disrupt value hierarchies and avoid testimonial injustice, thus encouraging previously excluded and disadvantaged groups to make their epistemic contributions and in their own terms. Good. So may I hand over here to Chiamo, unless, may I ask you, Joe, in the room, whether there is any burning question or any burning comment, that would be very much welcomed. If there is somebody who would like to, for example, add on or correct some of the things that I've been talking about.
It looks like we're good, Thierry. Any question? Looks like we're good, Thierry, so we could proceed.
Fantastic. Then let me hand over at this point to
we just have a request that you will share the slides, and I think you already did, so we'll distribute them with your permission.
I will share an updated version of the slides. Yes.
Okay,
Great.
Thank you.
All
right.
Talking about advancing critical university studies through innovative emancipatory research methods, basically about the World Café. We don't need the slide, yes. Let's talk about the World Café briefly. It's a participatory research method founded in 1995 by Juanita Brown and David Isaacs, according to Estacio and Carrick, 2015, and learning and change management tool by Kinney and Kinney, 2004. This method was found basically on, it was perchance, because Brown and Isaacs had a meeting where people had to come, and 24 people came, but there was basically no space because the rain started where they were supposed to be sitting. And then they decided that, oh, how are we going to then facilitate this process? Then they decided that, okay, let's put people in small groups, and then the World Cafe was born. We'll talk more about the World Cafe, the process. But what is it? It's an inclusive, dialogical, and solution-driven research method that promotes social change through mutual understanding and learning, according to Law et al. 2020. It's also a process of human, warm, and meaningful conversation of a group to discuss questions, generate innovative and creative ideas, agreements, and plans of action in a welcoming and friendly space, according to De la Mata 2012. And as you can see earlier on, I think now you have tried to arrange the seating arrangement. Yes. Earlier on, you were seated in circles and you had mini conversations between yourselves. Next slide, Terry. Thank you. So what are its philosophical underpinnings? It's based on social constructivism, mainly that our reality is co-created. We create a reality based on our social interaction. And from our social interaction, it means that when we interact, we create knowledge. Then that is participatory epistemology. That means that our shared experiences create the kind of knowledge. And when we share knowledge, when we interact, basically we are able to analyze and see our understanding of social phenomenon, and then we are capable of challenging the assumptions that we previously held and build on a critical pedagogy. So that those are the philosophical underpinnings of the World Cafe. Next slide, Thierry. Terry, continue. Yes. Why are we opting for the World Cafe? It calls for an emancipatory and decolonial African university. Earlier on, Dina spoke about pushbacks within the university, and also from the slide or the impact, the input that we all made to Terry's slide about what is an emancipatory decolonial university. It's a university that basically listens to us. It is context specific. It promotes the World Cafe itself. It promotes critical liberatory and social justice practices, because social justice happens in different ways. It can be affective, it can be cognitive, it can be political. So the World Cafe would promote that. And it disrupts the bureaucratic and impersonal neoliberal university. The current university within which we are in is a university that is mainly concerned about numbers, throughput, quantity, where at the expense of understanding the people within its environment, and also the knowledge that it tends to generate and uphold is knowledge that is not responsive and reflective of its environment. Also, the World Cafe undercuts hierarchies because it brings together people of different hierarchies, statuses, geographical locations. I mean, if you look across the room, both online and physically, we are different people of different personalities, education levels, social statuses, language, geographical locations. So that diversity is what is important, because it generates creativity and innovation. And most of all, unlike other qualitative research methods, the World Cafe is applicable to larger groups, disciplines, and contexts. It has been applied in higher education with regard to issues of student well-being. It has been applied in the health, fraternity, and also in nursing, to look at the issues of particularly the elderly when it comes to issues, sensitive issues like falling. The elderly tend to fall, and that is a very sensitive topic. But the World Cafe was also applicable to that. So the next slide. So what is the setting? How do we actually do this World Cafe? In the World Cafe, as you realize, when you entered the room, these are the first step. So the World Cafe represents an artificial setting of a cafe. And we all know that when we go to a cafe, we go to meet with our friends, we sit together at the round table. Normally, there are flowers and there's background music that plays softly, and it's an informal, it's an informal setting that allows us to relax, that allows us to chat, to smile, and to also interact with others. So basically, what um, um, the founders of the World Cafe said, that the spaces have to also have drinks and music, just to mimic the cafe setting. And each table has to have about 4 to 5 participants. But in each table, because it's a World Cafe, this is a solution seeking exercise. There needs to be a person called a table host. And who is a table host? A table host is a person that we can name as the repository of information for a particular table. How the table host works is that as people sit on the table, at the table, so the table host would actually be the scribe for that particular table. However, for the World Cafe to actually work properly, is that people need to move from one table to the other. That is, they rotate their tables. So people who were in table one would move to table two. Those in table two would move. So people move tables. They will rotate tables, except for the table host. So the table host would basically take the information, gather information that the participants from different tables have shared with them. So the aim, the task and role of the host is to ensure that there is dialogue, the continued dialogue, and they also try to identify common things that come in from the different participants as they are rotating the tables. So for each and every round, there is a round. A round is one rotation. There would be one question. One question at a time is discussed, and it's and thereafter it would be, excuse me, one question would be discussed, and thereafter it would be harvested to the entire group. So for them to build to see commonalities, identify differences, and that would be sharing a collective discovery amongst the group members. Next slide, Terry. But also we have to, because we are looking at, this is research, and so what are the ethics? We all know that the setting means that data is not individualized. And of course, the fact that data is not individualized, it's a positive, in that it allows people to actually share their information, honesty, authenticity, as Terry indicated in the previous slide, that the World Cafe is different from other methods, quantitative methods, because authenticity is important. Where there is that lack of confidentiality and anonymity that are not assured, because within a group setting, it's not easy to say that, oh, we can discuss that we we need to keep information confidential. However, that cannot be assured. It depends on the individuals themselves. And secondly, it is for confidentiality and anonymity to actually be, for the standards to be actually met. It is advised that participants also do not share information that they believe that they should not share. This is according to Clemens et al. The next slide, Thierry. But what are the benefits of the World Cafe? It co-creates knowledge because all of the participants would have had their say. I spoke about the table host. The table host would be interacting with different people within the World Cafe setting, and each of these parties would have shared their information. It respects the voice of the participants, meaning that it is the participants who actually tell their own story, who share their own lived experience. It fosters dialogue among participants. Normally, when people are in groups, we tend to sit with people that we are comfortable with. And you also realize that when we in a setting, we'll always sit on the very same chair for the duration of the entire conference. So the World Cafe method actually breaks those barriers. It allows people to actually interact. And then that interaction fosters dialogue amongst the different people, and it enhances mutual and reflective learning because diverse people are making inputs, and with each input, people are able to reflect, people are able to see reality from the side of another person. The next slide, Terry. And what are the cons of the World Cafe? It is time consuming, as you'd realize that now because of time constraints, we are going to do just one question. It requires a skilled facilitator who is able to deal with the group dynamics and also ensure that the time constraints are looked at, the question is also looked at, and it works for open-ended, complex, and abstract topics. We are going to deal with that topic itself. It doesn't actually deal with concrete topics, and then it's not suitable for introverts. At times, there are people who are very shy, who don't like interacting with lots of people, and they might find themselves that they are out of their comfort zone. Another slide. Therefore, the World Cafe is a novel qualitative method that attempts to highlight and capture the lived and varied perceptions and experiences of people living within, according to Albert 2015. But what law speaks against is that we should be careful of what they call methodatory, meaning that doing the World Cafe as is, just like when we are doing a research has to follow stipulations as they are. There are no divergences. So basically what this means, that it means that we when we are using the World Cafe, we need to use it in our own way so that we explore, we allow it, we use it to connect, we use it to challenge and build the African university that we seek, the Afrocentric or the African university that we seek to have within our continent. And with this word, I thank you. And I welcome questions from the table. From the table. I don't know where the questions come from.
Mike, for questions, I have also distributed some material. Maybe you'll speak over it, the consent form and information form as well. Any questions for Kiamo? Yes, we have one here.
Thank you. Persina Kagwa, my name. I would like the facilitator to differentiate between focus group, using the focus group and the World Café method. It seems they're a little bit similar and we would like to know how they differ. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Would you like to take it, Kiamo? Well, there's a second one, so take the two and at the same time.
Okay, thank you very much, Thierry. Missing you at the Uganda. I thought you were going to be here. Okay, so my question is, how do you, talking about acknowledging or referencing the knowledge you get from World Café, usually, because I do a lot of something like this, I think the kind of thing I do is related to this and I'm learning from this. But sometimes you find out that there's somebody that has the knowledge or that has the secret or that has the, when you go to, if you do this in communities, you find out that the people, there will be one person, maybe the leader or the oldest person or something like that, that actually has more of the knowledge about what the discussion that is taking place. So when you want to refer that information, how are you going to identify that person? I mean, how do you pick out that person? Because everybody's sitting on the round table and the information is just flowing and probably everybody is having a conversation around that topic. So who, yes, I think she got it. Thank you.
I think let's take those two and see if we can have a break after that.
Okay. Of course, thank you for the questions. Of course, there are similarities between focus groups and the World Café. But the major differences is that the focus group relies on the facilitator, whereas the World Café itself is a research method that puts the participants as the experts. It is the table host, and the table host is none other than one of the participants within that particular group. So that's one major difference, that it is driven by the participants themselves and not necessarily by the facilitator. The facilitator it is there just to see whether things are being done, to offer some support to the table host, not necessarily taking over the whole process. And also within when we are doing focus groups are done, at the most you can have about 15 people to facilitate a group. But with the World Café, it can be any number of people, as long as you can put them in smaller groups, smaller subgroups, and then you get information. So basically I can say that you are doing many focus groups with the World Café. And also with focus groups, often because it's 12 people who are 12 people or 15 people who are interacting with the facilitator, the researcher, then it is basically, yes, it is basically the researcher would actually point out that Kiamo said this, and Thierry said this, Joe said this. However, with the World Cafe, it is the table host who is the repository of that information, and they would not necessarily, the facilitators who are researchers in this instance would not necessarily know who said this and when. So those are the major differences. And I believe that the last answer that I gave uh, answers the second question, which was how actually do we discriminate who said what, when. It's not that easy to actually do that, because the facilitator or the researcher would be relying on the table host, and the table host would actually share information that is of a collectivity. So here we are talking about collective knowledge generation and collective learning. Thank you. So this is, Cherry, should I continue with this, or you are doing?
I suggest that because the room is also not set up anymore, I suggest that
Oh,
Thierry speaks over the forms that have been distributed in a minute or two, and then people can go for a 15 minutes break as we set up the room for the World Cafe for you to then proceed.
okay.
Yes, Kiamo, do you want me to quickly talk about the forms that have been distributed?
Yes, please.
Okay, colleagues. I don't know, actually. Can we have an indication of who needs a break? We've waited for 2 hours for this to start. So do we now need breaks? Because we would have come back when we started. Okay, Joy needs a break. Zooming needs a break. Okay, I see the hands are going up there at the back also. Wonderful. Okay, no, so we'll take a 15-minute break, a comfort break, also in order to kind of digest a bit all the information that we've already gone through. So the major paper that has been distributed so far is this particular document called the Information Sheet, Consent Form, and Contact Form. This is, of course, standard for any research project that you are meant to make sure that you make your participants in any research aware of what it is that you are doing research about, that they have the information, that they can make an informed decision whether they want to participate, and also to show that you are aware and you want to make them aware as well of some of the ethical issues that you have the best interest in mind. So we are doing this for two reasons. First of all, we are handing out to you this information sheet and consent form as an illustration to what information sheet consent form can look like in a World Cafe project. So this is where you give all the information about what you are doing, about the participation of participants, and so on, but also in terms of the ethical issues. Like, so for example, like Kiamo has said in her presentation, confidentiality and anonymity are very difficult in large group settings, right? Because somebody might just go outside of the World Cafe meeting and say like, oh, look, there's my friend. She was also just part of this research, and there goes anonymity. and there goes confidentiality. And you as the researcher cannot guarantee that. It's not like a one-on-one kind of study, you know. So confidentiality here, one needs to be aware that, you know, you cannot guarantee it. So you must be honest about that. That confidentiality or anonymity cannot be guaranteed. So this is a way of actually saying that, you know, also that there are risks and potential discomforts, and also in terms of the benefits, you know, that there may be no immediate benefit. Of course, every consent and information form always needs to have contact information. In this case, we are also upfront to say that this is an example project, and hence it has not undergone a formal process of ethics clearance with an institutional review board or an ethics committee, right? But you can see that this is exactly as it would go through an ethics committee. And then this is a complex consent form if you turn it around on the other side, because again, it discloses very closely, like this is what you are consenting to. So I confirm I've read the information. I had an opportunity to ask questions about the project. I understand the risks of participation, such as stigmatization. I agree to participate. So it's not just I consent, okay? And behind every one of these statements, there is a slot to sign, to tick or to sign, right? I understand this is an academy and an example project whose purpose is not to benefit me personally in the immediate or short term. I understand that any data collection from me will not be treated with confidentiality. You understand? And so forth. There will be no anonymity. I agree to that, and I agree to be personally identified. One has to be honest about this. If you are not honest in your research, then it's not trustworthy. You cannot deceive your participants in order to hope to get better information. That's not how it works. I understand how to raise and make a complaint. All of this kind of information is, of course, on the front page, and then the name, if there's an affiliation, then the phone number, qualification, and participant's full signature. So because this is an example project, we still need you to actually complete this form. So when you are leaving for the break now, please make sure that you are handing in the signed form to Joe, who will be collecting them, or to Leia and Zimi, who are also helping. So this is very important. If you feel that this is not for you, you don't want to continue participating in this, you don't want to be part of now the illustrative project that we are going to do in the next 2 hours, then that also means, of course, that you can't continue participating. So this is also a decision now that one needs to take, right? So please be aware of that, because it's voluntary. Okay. Then please also, if it hasn't been handed out yet, there's a second information that has been handed out, which is not related to this info sheet and consent form, but on the front page you have got the program information, but on the back side of it, you should have the information about the practical project. And especially where it says operation of the practical project, which is what Kiamo just has been talking about, please make sure you have this handy for the next step of the academy, so that it becomes easier to refer back to. Most importantly is, of course, the question at the bottom. And we are going to start with round one question when we're coming back, and that is, what are some of the persistent inequities and challenges that universities in Africa face in becoming Afrocentric universities? So that's some of the questions. That's the question that we are going to start with elaborating. Okay. So it is now 11:30. I think according to your time, it should be about 11:30. We are going to try and continue in 15 minutes sharp. So you have a comfort break, be able to do the bathroom and so on. Please remember to hand in your consent form before you leave the room now. And then if you're taking coffee or tea or cool drink, please bring it back into the room, because this is a World Cafe setting. So it's fine for you to have cafe during the World Cafe, okay? Don't keep it there and then come late, because if you are coming late, it will be difficult to admit you back into the room, please, because we have to start. Otherwise, everybody is going to be disadvantaged. So thanks very much. Chiamo, from your side, is there anything else that you would like to share at this point?
No, I believe that also we did share the information package online for our online participants.
That is great. Thank you. And then, yes. And Joe in the room? You are muted.
All right, so we will take the 15 minutes break and be back here at 12:45. You are invited to bring back your tea, so please, you can just go and serve it and come. Zimi and I and Leah are going to fix up the room for you. Oh, the tea, please take the steps down and then turn to your right. It's called the common room, is it? Yes, the common room. Hey, one of these ladies is going to give it to you. Thank you. Huh? So the approach is...
Colleagues, 12 o'clock, we start settling down, please.
Thank you very much, colleagues. The colleagues are trickling in without their coffee and tea. So they are not interested in doing the World Cafe. They left their tea wherever. But let's continue. The first thing that we ought to do for all the participants that are both online and in the physical space is to request that they hand in their consent forms. However, for the participants that are online, the process would be that when we are in our groups, breakout groups, we'll give consent. We'll read through the whole informed consent sheet so that they decide whether to agree or disagree to be part of their groups. Thank you. But also Terry has written on the chat that for online participants, please give consent by writing into a chat, I consent to participate to Those who have done so already, it's okay. The session is only open to the people who have consented to participate. If there's no consent, it means that one cannot participate. We are doing this so that as indicated earlier, that confidentiality and anonymity are not easy. So we are trying our best to ensure that there is that. Room 1. Thank you. We have a consent from Mr. Gumete, Mr. Moses Alobo. Room 1, how are we faring? And online we have 13 people. We have received 2 consents, 2 okays. It's still fine for. Terry, it seems like you wanted to say something.
It's fine. We can move forward and get started on the practical project. So I can see in the room in place, the chairing is already such that people have moved into table groups. Online, we'll be doing the same. We'll be moving into breakout rooms online. And then we'll also move around from breakout room to breakout room. For now, if you want to just have a look on the program, the academy program, on the back of the program, just have a look quickly while you are waiting again to look at the guidelines, how one does it per table. Chiamo is going to give instruction just now how to start the table conversations. I think, can I get an indication from the room? How far is the room? Is everybody back?
Not fully, but perhaps we could fill up the tables of 6. So if you're sitting on a table alone, join the others. This group could take 2 more people, so that we then begin with full groups. And those who still need consent forms, Zimi has some, and Zimi and Leah are receiving the field consent forms. Okay, Terry, I think I have all the tables full except 2, and I think you're good to go.
Okay. Good afternoon again. Yeah, it's afternoon for you, it's morning for us. Good afternoon. After the break, after taking tea, now we are going to do the practical part of the academy, the World Café Academy. How are we doing it? As Joe has been saying, there's a message here someone doesn't hear, but I hope they hear. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. As Joe has been saying that he has been rearranging the tables and was asking people to sit in groups. So basically, now we are going to be chatting about the World Cafe, doing it practically. So for the people who are online, Terry said, don't worry, we'll go into our breakout rooms. Let me just do the instructions first on how to actually carry it out. Our topic is leveraging critical university studies towards the practical pursuit of an Afrocentric university. So how are we doing it? So you all have tables. You have been assigned a table, and on each table, we need to have a person who would volunteer to be the host. The person who is the host is the table host is a person who would actually take the note of the participants who would be moving tables. The table host doesn't go anywhere. They sit and take notes, and the table host, their role is to ensure that there is dialogue, there is communication between the various groups. So the table host can be your we can term them our secretary. So the purpose of this whole exercise is to make sure that we have a table host, and the table host, apart from taking notes, is to ensure that they welcome you, because I believe you have sat there, but you have not really interacted with one another. So the table host would also welcome you to the table and help you understand what is it that you are going to be discussing. Of course, it is the question. And as we said earlier on, that we are late. We are not going to cover two questions, but we are only going to cover one question, and we are taking just one round, not two rounds. So the question that we are going to cover, the question that we are going, all the tables are going to discuss is, what are some of the persistent inequities and challenges that universities in Africa face in becoming Afrocentric universities? All of the groups are going to cover this question, and you would be moving from one table to the next discussing this question. So basically, we are exploring a question that matters because it's called a traveling question. And since we are speaking about inequities within the university, it is part of our lived experiences. And so this is the data that is going to be generated. And the table host, your role is to encourage dialogue in relation to the question. You will identify the different patterns in the conversation. And as I said, you don't move, but ultimately, at the end, after all the people have been moving, you would give feedback to the larger group. So we are, depending on time, we'll see whether we'll see how many rotations you are going to be doing. But we are likely to do a few, maybe 3 or 4, depending on time, because we are time pressed. Are there any questions? Do we have table hosts, particularly for the people on site? It looks like they're still completing the consent forms.
Sorry, Kiamo. So for everyone in the room who's ever sitting or has the exam paper, you are the table host. We just did that so it's easier instead of spending time trying to find a table host. So whoever has the exam paper is the table host. Okay. So you are not allowed to move.
And online.
Okay. Does everyone understand?
To move to a separate room.
Cool. All right. Kiamo, we also ask if you can please repeat the question.
Okay.
Okay.
Our
Thank you.
question, our question is, what are some of the persistent inequities that challenges that universities in Africa are, what am I saying? Sorry. What are some of the persistent inequities and challenges that universities in Africa face in becoming Afrocentric universities? What are some of the persistent inequities and challenges that universities in Africa face in becoming Afrocentric universities? The question is also on your
Kiamo, is it
program.
possible to display the question?
It's on your program. The program
No, it's
page.
on the program. Excellent.
The practical, yeah, Project Well Cafe. It's at the bottom. Page 2 at the bottom. There are 2 questions, but we are doing 1 question. The first one. And note that each table has 5 minutes, which I believe is too much. I think 3 minutes is enough. But let's try 5 minutes. Zimi and Leah.
So is it get on your marks, get set,
Yes.
and go? All right, there we are.
Terry, please do the breakout rooms. Can we have the breakout rooms for us who are online? Okay. We are waiting to be assigned online. Leah and Zimi, do you have the time? You are timekeepers. Joe. 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 I'm sorting out the.
Hello? Sorry, everyone. So sorry. Hi. Sorry to interrupt. Can I please just ask that you each give each other a chance to speak? Since it's 5 minutes, so likely about 30 minutes, 30 seconds, sorry. 40 minutes, 40 seconds, sorry. At least just give each other a chance to speak so you can hear each other and so the host has enough information for everybody. Thank you. Time. Can I please ask everyone to get up and move to another table because the 5 minutes is over? Just remember that the table host stays in the same position, but everybody else has to move to another table. Okay, are we moving? Can I please ask everyone to move? To move, exercise, people. Move those bodies. Move any table you want to. Please move to another table. No, the table host stays. Everybody else moves. No, you can sit wherever you want. Yeah. Okay. All right. Is everybody settled? Okay. Where is my timer? He's leaving. Okay, we officially have 5 minutes again. You're doing the same thing, speaking about the same question. Please don't repeat what you said in the other group. That's for the table host to do. 5 minutes is starting. Hello, can I please ask everyone to move to another group? The conversation will continue. TBC to be continued in another group. Thank you, everyone. There are 3 people in this group. Can we please try and fill in?
no breakouts for online participants, please?
Time. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Hey, these conversations are moving.
Fantastic. We are also
Time.
back from the virtual space,
Thank you
from
so much,
online.
everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Joe is going to take over from here.
All right, looks like everybody kept time. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Zimi. They did such a wonderful job keeping us in check. Thank you, the chairs of each of the sessions. So I'm now going to give you over to Thierry, who will then show us what happens next. Because I imagine there's curiosity what happens after all this that you've done. But being a methodology means there's something that comes after. So Thierry is going to help us understand what happens, especially if we choose to use this methodology for our own research. Thierry, are you ready?
Yes, thank you so much. Back into the
We are going.
Thank you so much. Actually, it is Chiamo who is going to lead us through the next stage. And the next stage, I think, Chiamo, it's called harvesting, isn't it?
Yes, because we have been getting ideas from one table to the next. We met new people, we had new ideas, we had table hosts. So now, table hosts, I believe that you have been writing, you are busy writing. Can each table host kindly, they're still moving up and down, kindly share information? Perhaps we should start with the people online. Let's give you.
I'm sorry, by mistake, I muted you. The table host of the one table in online was Edward Kumede. We had two tables. Maybe Edward, please, if you can unmute yourself, show yourself, and tell us a bit in 2 minutes at most. We don't have much time. 1 minute. What were the conversations that you observed?
Thank you so much. I'll try to stick into 2 minutes. What transpired through our discussion was that there's a curriculum bias. They mentioned the issue of implementation part of it, which is a challenge, and there's an influence of Western culture. And the second one was the issue of the legacy of colonial education. And this one also, it goes back to the Western culture. They cited the issue of publishing into high impact journals, whereby Africans are being charged a lot of money, so they are unable to. The last one is the rejection of articles from European, for example, European, UK, and Canadian journals, whereby Africans, when they send their journals, they're being rejected, and they end up opting for these other journals, which they think they accommodate more of the African group. So, just to sum up everything, which means from all this group one, they are calling for decolonization of curriculum and incorporate it with an African perspective. Promotion of African language and cultural heritage. And the last one, they are calling for development of innovative funding models. Thank you.
The host is busy muting me. Thank you very much, Edward. Now let's go to the table host for your table. You are the table host, isn't it, for group one?
Yes, I can just very briefly add to that, because we only had two tables online. Just to add to what Edward was saying, those were really important conversations. A related conversation was about a bias that is actually observed among African parents and students and even lecturers about preferring overseas institutions to their own institutions. So that, for example, what we call sometimes brain drain, that lecturers want to go, the best lecturers try and go for greener pastures, as they might call it, for bigger salaries or to live overseas, and then never come back. And even when one does recruitment, one of the people on the table was talking about the fact that it seems like African universities, when they do recruitment around communities, they are not received in the same way as, for example, university in the UK, EU, USA, Canada, and so on. So there's actually a bias among ourselves in Africa around where we see maybe quality or preference and preferring things that are not from outside, which of course is a big problem and that needs to be addressed. So that's another conversation I think that one would need to have, like where does this bias come from and how can this bias continue to persist unchallenged? So those are some of the conversations, Kiamo.
Muted.
Kiamo, you are muted.
Thank you very much, Edward and Thierry, for the feedback. Can we now go to room 1 for the feedback from each table host?
Thanks, James Bogere. And these are some of the points members mentioned here. Like the online audience said, curriculum. Curriculum has issues. We are more dominated by foreign interference in most of our works or activities we do in the university. Then also the donations, there are terms and conditions that dictate what we do in universities by donors. And then the state interference because of neocolonialism. So neocolonialism sets the agenda here in our universities. So we may not blame too much of our local leaders, but still the foreigners. Then cultural diversity, and some, like for example, Uganda here, we have a problem of national language. We are struggling to learn Kiswahili, so that could be an example. So how can we have issues related to that? Then demographics, do we know the numbers, for example, of students or the region, ethics, all these kind of things to do with statistics that you can now dictate. Our bosses in universities can do useful work for our students who are joining universities. And then we all talk about learner-centered learning. So realizing or implementing learner-centered learning is still a big challenge because of statistics. And then also maybe this one, I personally, it caught me, I have to maybe elaborate more about this learner-centered learning. In our norms or culture here, there are certain, you can't engage your boss or your father or your supervisor. There are some limitations. But now, even the boss in our culture, so it's like one-way communication. Yet learner-centered learning will that engagement. So it's kind of foreign, but now we are implementing it here locally. So there's a very big challenge. How can I challenge my supervisor or my lecturer in class, and are they willing to take it up anyway? The supervisors, are they willing to learn from their learners, from their students? Maybe just, I don't know, I still have more points here. Literacy levels, infrastructure setups. Some of these infrastructures, they don't portray our cultures here. And so they are just brought from Europe, and then, you have Ivory Tower here. Maybe we should have either, I don't know what members. So now there's a struggle. What should we take foreign and what should we leave locally? Should we have grass, thatched houses, whatever? Here's buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, group leader, for putting all those points together. The dilemma between what is from here and what is from out there. All right, we go to this group.
Thank you. This group, one of the tenets we identified was that we emphasize and respect and conduct our education in foreign language. And in this case, it becomes even sometimes quite difficult to appreciate even what we learn. So learning ends up being more of an abstract, and even the learners fail to appreciate and practice what has been learned because it's not in tandem and practically realistic based on the African culture. Number two, we identified that even this education is not based on the practices. For example, what does an African do for survival? What kind of activities does an African participate in his daily activities? For example, when you go to, for example, to the market, and you have been taught mathematics. In Africa, sometimes we believe in valuing what you have and also what I have. But when it comes to monetary issues, like these papers, it becomes difficult even to determine how the exchange and so on. Secondly, we looked at inequality in terms of educational inequality by gender. In Africa, we have always emphasized that the girl child shouldn't go to school. Maybe the male child is the one who should be going to school. But when it comes into this context, we realize that the education we get, first of all, even initially it was emphasizing that it should be the male person to go to school. And we realized that the aim was basically to have males, because they were the ones who were supposed to be leaders, and the ladies were not expected in that context. So it was not promoted. So it becomes a problem in this respect. In terms of research, research is basically project-oriented. Yet, we expected that probably research should be targeted to African values, African challenges, solving African problems. And we realized that in order for a research undertaking to solve a problem, it may not necessarily have to be time-based. Then also lastly, we realized that there was no harmonized research curriculum and methodology, and then also the education lacked standardized pedagogical skills. You find that where somebody has been trained, that's how the person comes and also does the teaching, and so on and so forth. I submit.
Awesome, excellent. Thank you for the points. I suggest that if your points have been shared, the ones you have, please tick them off and then share the new ones, and do the points. We have been discussing the explanations, and we shall still be able to capture them.
Thank you. So I was trying to do that, ticking off what has been shared. But I'm going to read through again. If it has been shared, I'll just go to the next point. So lack of representations in the university's administrative systems, that many of the administrative systems do not recognize other groups or other people of religions, including indigenous religion. Inadequate literature. The literatures are not up to date, or most of those literatures are westernized in foundation. So we don't have enough African literature to refer to. And this also brings up the idea that we are talking about African studies. Can we write mathematics in our languages? We need to take up that challenge of having to write in our languages. Of course, somebody have talked about funding and the colonization of research. The language challenge. The language is always English, because that's the only English, French, or whichever foreign language or colonizer colonized us. So how are we able to cross this line? Okay, mode of analysis is always Western. Okay, yeah, the brain drain issues have been talked about. Knowledge, okay, racism knowledge. In this case, our understanding is that knowledges that are African, either they are not acknowledged or we don't see many. For instance, on our table, we talked about philosophy, and that till now, many of the philosophies we hear about is Aristotle, Descartes, and the likes, Plato. So how do we begin to recreate our own African philosophy? Unhealthy competition among the faculties. For instance, people believe the knowledge that comes from Makerere University is superior to other universities in Uganda. That's part of the inferiority complex. Then colonization of ideas. Then Afrocentric thinking and studying. I think that's all. Thank you. Sorry, finally, that more funding for African research. There should be more funding for African research, because many of the fundings that we get, they come from the Western world, and they determine what you study or what you use the funds for. So more funding for African research-based topics.
Thank you very much. I'm hearing hands are tied to funding and how all those things happen. We still have two groups. Thierry, would you advise? Okay. There's also a request that you keep your response papers, because we'd like to have a copy of them to be able to capture them afterwards.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is a super group from the super table. Now, I don't like to repeat what my colleagues have already expressed. I'll start by where in most of our universities, the research, most of research are project related or oriented or project based, and they work only on the objectives. That means they move by specifics. Then the other thing is there is political interference. This one you can interpret it from different perspectives, not freely adopting to academic freedom and all that. Then the other point is elitist mentality. being a society of our own. That one leading to disconnect between the administrators, the faculty, and the community, leading to relevance offering of educational settings. Then I'll not say anything about brain drain, had already been shared. There is technological infrastructure or gaps. Most of the institution lacks that in order to access, to give quality learning. Then there is another element of resource constraints or funding disparities, where the government and the private source, in fact, of funding, have their own criteria or model of funding, leading or leaving out the smaller universities, in most cases favoring being biased towards the bigger universities. As Madam has said, they value Makerere more than these other smaller universities. Then the other thing is about research uptake. We have very beautiful ideas coming from Afrocentric universities, but they are left, to pile the dust in the repositories or in our libraries, instead of implementing those recommendations that are there. Then there is an element about the lack of confidence or attitudes, that poor attitudes, in fact, coming from how you perceive your academic, let's say, elites from Africa. You are comparing it with someone from abroad, and you realize that this one may deliver more, and yet you don't realize that the African one has more command of subject mastery or content. Then the other issue is about the endangered inclusivity, social justice, and gender. Is about gender disparity towards ladies. In most African countries, they are saying educating a lady is a privilege. It's not a right. That is what is also derailing us. Now, with that, even the boy child is suffering now. So the other point is about, let me finish. There is the element about the commercialization of higher education. That is also another aspect. Then there is influence of the international agencies or the donors, especially the UNESCO's, UNICEF, all these come up with their own policies. And then there is element about comparative education. Instead of African countries comparing it with African university or Afrocentric universities, they end up comparing with Western countries and started implementing the ideas that are a bit, without infrastructure are bound to fail. Finally, it is about poor or power dynamics. Sorry, that is global power dynamics. You realize that most of the African countries, this one has been leading to disintegration of the countries. And if the country disintegrates, then outright the education system also fails. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Supergroup. Perceptions, where the money is, what is research for?
So this I had a very rich group, I'm going to not stand so much between you and your break. Simply to do some of the implicit thematic analysis implied in the methodology and the hosting. And just to make 3 points from gathered throughout the discussions on this table. And the 3 points concern a diagnosis of the challenges and also dilemma. So the first point is around the worldview and how to undo the colonial mindset, which is the thing that is known. And the dilemma then of rejecting that in favor of something that isn't known. That there is one colonial mindset that we know, but there is an Afrocentric mindset which we don't quite know. So the second is a dilemma around the disposition. Whether Afrocentrism can be fully compatible with a type of cosmopolitanism, which is characterized by a disposition of openness, acceptance, and beginning to unlearn versus this dilemma of wanting to get on with some kind of program of progress and the fear that some can get left behind while we are seeking these many views. Thirdly, then, languages. This has been mentioned a lot in the other groups, but there is this dilemma of whether to prioritize the foreign languages needed by investment, donor demand, and globalization. And interestingly, while Eurocentrism and European culture was mentioned in relation to the other points, in relation to languages, Chinese was specifically mentioned. Versus the focus on African languages and the diversity and plurality of African languages. That was what we discussed in the group. There are more notes, but I think that's enough.
Thank you, group leader, and wonderful points from this group. We still have one last group that will take only 2 minutes. Then Thierry, you take us to the end.
Thank you so much. From the mighty group, we have these challenges. One, the religious affiliation. You find that apart from being colonized, we also have religious affiliation. So we need to first deal with that challenge also. Then the ideological differences between the different universities. Then we have the challenge of ownership, which also has to be harmonized. We have private universities and then the public universities. There is the challenge where we have a gap between the elites and the community, where you analyze and you find that most of us who are here are the elite group, and the knowledge we generate may not reach the communities where we come from. Then there are still mental health and well-being concerns also which need to be addressed, which we have not really given so much attention. We have a challenge of authorship and the publications where the African publishers are not given that much attention. Then we also have the problem with infrastructure development. They are also still lacking. And we had a question at the end of it all that what should be African, and we realize that our values are really, really very important, and they can really unite us together as Africans. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, mighty group, and thank you to all the groups. We had one last group that said all their points were mentioned, but I just want to acknowledge you. Do you want to say that? Okay, in a minute. Yeah, the groups were more than I thought.
Yeah, thank you. Because the group took time to come up with these points, though they were mentioned, it's worth listening to them. First of all, they took time to understand what Africa is all about in order to approach this question. And in their understanding, this is a continent of multiple cultures, beliefs, and values. So in the inequities that the African universities are facing, they did highlight overdependence on scholarship from Western world, some of which come with the strings attached. That doesn't give room for these scholars to target their own interests. And then there is the issue of disability and exclusion in most of our universities. Especially, you find that the way some of these infrastructures are designed does not consider our people with disabilities. So that's one of the inequalities that they tried to look at. And then when it comes to ranking, they are of the view that there should have been a different ranking system for these African universities. But you find the universities all placed at the world ranking system as if they all took off at the same level. And that is not really fair for the African universities and remains an inequality. And then in the challenges, the issue of curriculum, the curriculum that we are working with is this curriculum that we inherited from those who introduced the university education to us. And we have maintained and protected that very faithfully without trying to bring in our own aspects that can address our own problems. So like this group is of the view that the Afrocentric universities could really be concentrating on that type of curriculum that can help them address African-based problems. And when it comes to evaluation, we still see that our evaluation system is Western-based. Exams, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you submit. And you find that it does not bring out really what somebody is capable of. If you fail to write within that 2 hours, it condemns you that you are not able, and yet you could be more capable than that. And then there is the issue of relying on foreign support, especially in matters of research in these universities. Most funded research do not target African priorities. So that is one of the challenges that these universities are facing and which is hindering them from becoming fully Afrocentric. So I think this is where I can stop. The rest of the points are similar. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thierry, please take it away.
I'm not Terry.
You're still muted.
Me? No. Yes. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much for the feedback, for the wonderful feedback. From what you have shared, there are themes, but I don't want to be the one who speaks about those themes. It ought to be us speaking about the themes. And now we are edgy, people want to go for lunch. So when we come back, we'll do the themes and then reflect on we'll actually do the themes. Oh no, it's tomorrow.
There's a reflection tomorrow, yes.
Yes. Do we have are we going for lunch? Are you going for lunch? Now.
Yes. What we can do is also take a picture of each of the papers so that they are available in the reflections. And I think Thierry took notes. I know he loves to take notes. So yeah, how can we do it? But yeah, we are ready for lunch if you let us go.
Okay, what we can do then is that we'll meet tomorrow, and we'll do tomorrow from 12:40 until 1 to report back and to discuss. That would be the best way to do it. So we'll have so the discussion would cover the themes that came out from this discussion, and the second part would be to actually reflect on the process of the World Café itself. So we'll do that for tomorrow and on Friday, day 3, between 10:30 and 12:30. 10:30. These are South African times. Ne? Oh, not South African times. Your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kiamo. Thank you, Thierry. Thank you, wonderful participants in this session. So like you heard, we have it on program to have some reflections. You'll have a choice to come or go to other sessions, but I hope you can find the time to then come to this session when we do it. There's a request to take a picture just before you go for lunch. There's a banner there, a commemoration picture for this group. Maybe one day we will be proponents of this approach and point ourselves out on this picture. So yes, Jude invites you to take a picture that we can keep for the people who participated in this session. All right, so looks like we're free to go. Thierry, Kiamo, no objections? All right. Please, you're welcome for lunch.
Hello.
Oh, we had a
Hello.
hand up that I did not see. And the group insists they would like to hear what you would like to say. So,
All right. Thank you very much, participants. I'm Dr. Enoch Asimwe, attending from Botswana, but I'm a Ugandan. I have one experience which I would like to share with you. I hope we did not include this point in my group. One of the challenges we are experiencing now is about globalization and international relations. We all know and agree that the education systems in any country are shaped by national and international political decisions. And the point I would like to talk about is about immigration and policies. In our experience, I've been the coordinator of international relations and student recruitment in different countries. And in this work, we have experienced one challenge of delay in processing student permits. I might say that the process is as hard as brushing crocodile teeth. The students, we get international students, and mostly in Africa, getting papers for students is not easy. But for European countries, USA and Canada, they are looking for African students. The process of processing their permits does not take long time. But here in Africa, in Uganda, in Rwanda, I've been in academics, I've been in an administrative position in one of the universities in Rwanda, but now I'm in Botswana. Student permits take long time to be processed in Africa. There is also a problem of evaluating student qualifications to be admitted, like in Uganda. You're an international student to be admitted. The National Council for Higher Education must evaluate the student qualifications. They also take a long time. So I think as Africans, we need really to look at this point and then see how governments can streamline this so that they make the process of student permits easier, the process of evaluating students' qualifications easier, such that the admission units at the university can do its work and then accommodate these international students. I feel it's an important point to share at this platform so that people who have political attachment, the university administrators who communicate, who had a chance to present this point to the right platforms, this one should be given a consideration such that students from international students are accommodated in universities, like the way it's done in European countries, Canada, and USA. Thank you very much.
it's something to really think about because it does affect a lot of students across the continent of Africa. And, you know, we're already having it elsewhere, but it's just not right to have it on our continent amongst ourselves. All right, let's go have lunch. And no, please carry everything. We are going to the main hall for the next session. It's the grand opening. So what we had here was a pre-conference session. We were partly testing also how these things are going to work. So thank you for being part of that experiment. So it shows, you know, from now on things should work very well. So it will be in the main hall, the big place. And then it's tomorrow that we shall have small sessions here as well. Downstairs, then straight. But for lunch, it's downstairs, then right. Yeah. Remember the picture. There should be a cameraman, I think, to take a picture for us. Zimi is taking pictures of the responses. Please allow her. We signed away our rights to all this information for as long as we were here. And for the online audience, thank you very much for making this work and for participating in the groups as well. This has been very much appreciated here at Makerere.
Terry, can we take a picture? Colleagues, are you still here? Hello? Terry, can you remove this? You are viewing Terry's screen and we show our faces and then we take our group picture.
Yes, please. Can we also take a group
Yes.
picture, please?
We cannot act like we don't have technology.
Yes. Smiling, everybody on. Let's try it again. What's going on?
These beats are on fire.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So next sessions are continuing at 2:30 in the main hall. There's a link. You can also request again for that. And then as far as the academy is concerned, we have 3 more sessions, one tomorrow afternoon, the other one on Friday morning, and then of course at the dinner, there's a certification for the online participants. Since we will not be able to join the dinner, the online participants will get their certification online as well. So please make sure that you are properly registered and you send to Kiamo, myself, or any of the organizers, Joe, your contact details, your email, and so on, so that it will be possible to also give you your certificate.
Okay, thank you very much, Thierry.
Okay.
Please,
Thank
can
you
you
so
share
much.
your email with us through the chat?
I can do it right away. Yes. Let
Okay.
me do that. It makes it perhaps a little easier. This is my email address. And the name is like this. Fantastic. Thank you very much for everybody who participated. In fact, the conversations that we ended up having in the online groups, on the online tables, has really been engaging. It has really been great. Thank you for that. And yeah, I hope to see you tomorrow, latest, when we have the next parallel session. And for that session, please think about it a little bit like it's a debrief. Like, so what are questions that you still have? What was interesting about what we talked about, whether it was as part of the presentations or whether it was during the practical kind of example project? What would you like to know more about? And what did you not entirely understand? And some of the things, of course, are also perhaps going to be clarified by the literature that Kiamo is going to share. She's going to share it to everyone, but that might take until next week, because we're going to have all the email lists from everyone who participated, also those who participated in person there in the seminar room. And then everybody is going to receive the information. We'll also, remember, we're also going to establish, in order to communicate over the next few days, including after the conference a WhatsApp group. So please, can you also share your phone numbers? Preferably, since you now have got our emails, your email address is wrong, Chiamo. It's Univen. There's an I missing. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It's not Unven, it's Univen. I think I can just see that. So if you can just change that one. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Pegoti Ngeno. Yes, that will be really helpful. In fact, that would be the best. If for those who are still here, if you are sharing also your phone number, please. The phone number that is going to make it possible for you to join a WhatsApp group, because we will communicate with WhatsApp group. We will not really so much communicate with email, because people are at the conference, they're walking around, they might not receive their email on their phone. So please, let's do it with WhatsApp as an easier way to be able to do that. That's great. Thank you so much. Enoch, thank you so much for your contribution throughout. Please, colleague, my number, I also want to share it so that you also have it. You are welcome to put it into your details as well. There you go. This is my WhatsApp number, so that we can stay very well in contact with each other throughout the time. That will be really, really helpful. Okay, if you'd like to make some final comments, because I think very soon people also here online will want to go and have something to eat wherever you are. Ebenezer, please just unmute yourself, please. There's no need to be formal here. I think you can just unmute yourself.
I think he's speaking with someone.
Okay.
Yes. So, colleagues, let's...
Mm-hmm.
It looks like there's nothing to add, nothing to share. It's just that people are still sharing their details.
Yes,
So
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great. That's really helpful. It's going to make it much easier to share the evaluation survey with you. It's going to make it easy to share with you the literature and also the links. I mean, as soon as we're going to have links for the different rooms, we'll always also share them for those who might not get the access immediately, that you will have all the information at all times. So if you haven't shared it yet, please do share it. It's going to make things easier for yourself and for us to be able to actually for more. Thank you so much. So I think we're missing the details of Ebenezer. We're still missing, as he left. Samuel. Yes. Okay. Ebenezer, did you share your details?
Maybe they are coming.
Are they still coming?
Not yet. I thought that these were.
Yes, please. I'm working on it.
Okay, fantastic. We just don't want to close the call before you've had the chance to put them in, because we'll have to close the call in the next 5 minutes or so. Maliko Kisembo, I can't see either. Did you share your details? And Philista Adijiru. Boache. That sounds very Ghanaian. Emmanuel Boachi. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes, Prof. Thierry.
We're going to say.
Yeah, we are doing also.
Mensume Hoye.
Really, you stayed in Ghana before?
Meti tui kakra.
Wow. Wow.
But it's been a long time. It's been a long time. I mean, I was there last year, but when I learned Twi and Fanti.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Meaning you stayed in Anakan region.
I stayed in Kumasi, but I also stayed in Winneba.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Where it's more
I'm currently in Kumasi as well. I schooled for my first degree in Winneba. That's the University of Education.
Oh, wonderful! That place. That's a nice university. It's a university for education and sports science, isn't it?
No, it's the University of Education, but they have a faculty for sports sciences.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see. Yes. I used to stay close to it for quite a while. Yeah. So that time it wasn't a university yet. It was just a college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then that was like, I would say, getting close to 30 years now, when it was a college.
Yes, it is close to 30 years now that I was living in Winneba, actually, for that time.
Winneba. Oh, okay.
Yes. So did you learn any Efutu?
Okay, where I stayed for, like, the Futu was spoken when you get close to like the fishing area.
Yes.
But since I was not close there, most of the people who were residents of at where I stayed spoke the Fanti, which is closely related to the tree. Yeah.
That's right. Where are you now?
Oh, I'm currently a student at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, colleagues, thank you so much. I think we can close the call. Kiamo, do you want to have a final words to our online participants?
Nothing but thank you very much. And most of all for bearing with the technical difficulties. We started unfashionably late and it was not easy. but we made it work, particularly the online session. The online session is at the most challenging one because we never know what will happen. Thank you very much. We hope to see you tomorrow. And as Terry said, please reflect, and then tomorrow we'll discuss. We'll take it from there and see what is what. But thank you very much. Have a pleasant afternoon. Thank you.
Medasi Enkosi. Thank you.
Medasi Enkosi. He cannot be saying it alone. Medasi Enkosi. Me too. I'm saying it.
That was papa.
Okay. Thank you.
That was
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.